Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bikinis After Babies. Thank you so much for joining us today on a very heartfelt episode. But as always, I am one of your hosts, Mandy Rochon, here with your other host, IFBB Bikini Pro, Gillian Hughes.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're so excited that you're here, and we're really excited that it is our 1 year anniversary of this podcast, which is
It's
kind of
surreal.
crazy. Like, just thinking back to when we started and having no idea what we were doing, or could we really pull this off? And is anyone going to listen to it other than our families? And so we thought today would be a good opportunity to just recap some of our favorite moments of the year, talk a little bit about some of the things that we've learned, and some of our plans for the growth of the podcast and the Bikinis After Babies community. So, but before we begin, it's been a hot minute, really, because last week's episode was pre-recorded and we had Thanksgiving and we also had a team show. So we've got a couple of things that we just wanted to kind of talk to each other about and share with you guys about updates. So Mandy, why don't you go first and catch us up on what you've been up to?
Yeah, it is crazy. It definitely feels like a minute since we've recorded. It
Hmm.
really, I was thinking about that today when I was getting ready. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't done this in a couple weeks. It's just weird. But no, we both had the last show of the season as far as the NPC Midwest. Great show in Kansas City. It was the first show of the NPC Midwest having, a pro and an amateur show in Kansas City in November. And it was absolutely a fantastic turnout. So many people. I was so happy to expedite that show. It was a long day, but all the people that because it's my city. So all the people that I know from men and women competing, all the coaches. I saw you for 2 seconds. That was it.
One hug, that was it. I
That
didn't
was
see you the
all.
rest of the day.
So anytime that I've worked a show and then you have been at a coach at the show, it's so chaotic that we see each other, hug, say bye, and that's it. We don't have time to have dinner, we don't have time to have
No,
breakfast, we don't have time to
no
talk.
time at all. No.
None. And so this show, especially how it was set up backstage where I was at and where the athletes were held, I never saw you. So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah.
But no, that show was great. And then after that, it was the end of the season for the NPC Midwest till 2025. And then going into Thanksgiving, I actually host. I know you host too. My Thanksgiving's relatively small. So I just had kind of the grandparents here and just, had a normal, simple Thanksgiving. My mother-in-law brought an insane amount of dessert, even after we said there was only six of us. But yeah, it was just a really good time with family. I've been really, really happy with my gym lately. My workouts are fantastic. I I can officially say my back is back to normal.
That's
As
awesome.
it it is. And I have to give credit to my friend Ariel, who I think she listens sometimes. Hi, Ariel.
Hi, Ariel.
She came in town for the NPC show and we worked out a couple times together. And when we worked out, it she knew I had an injured back. So she knew when we were doing legs, and Ariel's a bikini pro. She lifts pretty heavy. She knew not to push me too hard. But what was nuts is I was able to match her with her lifts and still have no back pain. And I was like, Mandy, you are stronger than you think, and it's okay to lift heavier. And so
Hmm.
this whole last week and this week, I've just been killing it. I've been loving my lifts. I've been feeling super sore and just strong and happy. So it's just been so, so good.
That's good.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
So what about you? What have you been up to? How was your Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great. We had a feast, like just so much food. I generally have more people than we did this year. We only had just us, but I mean, we're a family of seven, so it's like a lot of us. But grandparents didn't come in. My mom lives in Canada. She didn't come this year. But we've decided we're just going to make sure she comes every single year because we really missed her this year. She was with
Aw.
us last year. And then Brian's mom joined some friends in Indiana. And sometimes we have just family friends that just, they're divorced and maybe the kids are
Mm,
with the, other parent, and we invite them to come over. And this year we didn't have anybody, so I had way too much food.
yeah.
But I did the turkey trot on Thanksgiving
Oh
morning.
yeah.
Girl, And what a scene that was. Okay. I just want to tell you, like, I've done like races before, like 5Ks before. I don't know if it's where I live, but there's some people that took this quite seriously, and good on them. I was just there to not, freeze. And really, like, my goal was just to complete it without stopping. But when you've got, like, 3 miles of running, and like, my son took off because he was definitely trying to, like, compete, and I was like, I'm just trying to not hurt myself. It's just like the people watching is like just ridiculous, right? And so I thought I was doing really good, and then, like, a man in a stuffed turkey suit ran past me, and I was like, let's go, Gillian. Like, you just got smoked by a turkey. And then, like, there was, like, somebody doing their second lap of it when I'm, like, not even halfway through, and I'm like, did they bring in, like, the US Olympic team? Like, what is happening right now? And it was very cold. But I think I placed, like, 600th out of, like, 1,600 people, which, maybe, I don't know, maybe this bikini competing thing ends. There's a spot for me
in running.
No, I have no desire. Like, it was great though. So we did that. And then, we had the Kansas City show, which, just kind of going back to that, we had, 5 athletes that competed on our team. It was a great weekend, good showing, great pro show. It was cool to, like, see some of these girls, in person. And I think what's so funny, not funny, that's not the word I'm like, so interesting. I always think this, when you stand next to them, they are so compact compared to when you see them on stage. Because I was at the privilege and honor of interviewing Brittany Gillespie and Naday Nador for NPC News Online. And it was like totally a last minute opportunity. And I was like, I'm definitely not going to say no to this. I had like 20 minutes to get ready. And so anyways, I didn't have time really to prepare. But, when I was standing next to both of them, I was just like, man, like, they are in such great shape, but they're, they're smaller, structured people. They just look larger than life on stage. So, and both really, really sweet. So that was a really, really cool opportunity. So you can catch those interviews on their YouTube channel, and I've linked them both on my Facebook page. But yeah, that's it. Just I've loosely started prep. I say loosely. I was like, when I was in Kansas City, I was messaging James. I'm like, I'm coming back next week. Like, I just wanted to get through Thanksgiving. And like, I was like, I've got my sights set on April and wanted to get on stage. And I wake up Monday morning with, like, excruciating tooth pain. And I now have to have oral surgery at the end of this month. So I, started things on my own. I just didn't think it was a good idea to, like, sign on for coaching when, like, I know I'm looking at, like, a 3 to 7 day recovery period. I don't know. It could be 3 days and might not be that big of a deal. But I feel like I, do a fine job of keeping myself accountable, and I don't have to do the April show. I just wanted to have, like, some shows ahead of, my what is, going to be an important show in my pro debut season. So anyway, so things, sometimes they just don't go as planned, and it might totally be fine. It might, I don't know. So I'm just working on being really consistent, water in. I never really fall off with my training, but sometimes I'll, accidents here and there, and, like, I've cleaned those up, and not drinking, and, trying to get more recovery and stuff. So it's a bit of a bummer because I was so excited. I was like, oh yeah, December 1st, let's go. And then it was just like, so whatever, it is what it is. It's just a wisdom tooth. So, I mean, it's not,
it's just it's not just a wisdom tooth.
It's not like a jaw resection, and, like, I mean, I've heard of, I'll still be able to, like, eat and stuff like that, but I will miss some time training. Yeah, it's just, it's a bummer.
But I think, like, there's something to kind of take away from that. Like, even though you're so excited to start, you're still doing little things to keep yourself accountable and make sure, like, you can start later. But in reality, like, being full, like, on prep, on top of everything, knowing that you're gonna have oral surgery at the end of the month, like, and you really don't know. Like, could you be, like, fine in 2 or 3 days and whatever, but you also could be down and out, like, for 2 weeks possibly. Like, it's one of those things that you don't know. Like, people just are all different. Like, I had my wisdom teeth cut, oh my gosh, in 2017, I think it was. Oh my God. Like, no. Like, I didn't realize how bad it was because I was on on painkillers for like days and days. And so I think it was like day 5. I was like, oh, this is better. This isn't that bad. I was still on painkillers. I ran out of medicine on like Saturday. And so by Saturday, Sunday morning, I was in excruciating pain.
Yeah.
Horrible crying in bed pain. I was so lucky that Aaron knew the dentist or the oral surgeon because like something to do at the time Aaron worked at a car dealership, something to do with like cars. So he happened to like know who the guy was and was able to like go through like this like text message loophole, whatever.
On the weekend. Get you some more meds.
Because he was a traveling oral surgeon. It wasn't like a specific office. So like he was able to like find a way to get me meds because he was like, what do we do? Because I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, everything that was it. But that was all of my wisdom teeth cut. That wasn't just like one.
Yeah,
so like
I just have one.
Yeah. So, and you're getting it extracted. So it's also different too. Like these had to get cut because they were too close to my nerves. So
the whole thing is just, it's fine. Things don't always go as planned, but I want to, make the most of December. And to be honest, like there's a lot going on, but like most of our like, eating and drinking celebrations kind of already happened like through the fall, and like December is like busy with like wrestling and cheer and like kids concerts, and like Brian has like a holiday party for work and stuff. So like it's totally with Justin Timberlake tickets. Like we just have so much going on. So it's got to be like at the end of the month. But anyways, I just who knows? Like I could go into January and James might be like, you're farther ahead than you thought you were, or not. Yeah. I'm happy to take as much time as necessary. I don't have my heart set on any show. It's I would love to be able to compete at the end of June, but I'll compete when I'm ready. So it's fine. It is what it is. I can't get too upset about it, but I'm also like, I'm not going to like dick around all December. Like I'm posing. Yeah. I was posing and stretching and like doing all the things and realized like, I'm a little rusty there. Even though I coach posing and I pose with clients all the time, it's different when you like actually spend time working on yourself. And I mean, and I get right down into the bikini, no socks, nothing. Like I told you today, I was in like a beanie and like leg warmers because it's officially like leave your protein shake in the car when you go to the gym weather and you come out and it's really cold. You don't need to use the fridge. Yeah. So like it's so cold here, but I just, I want to make sure like that's the one thing I'm really like most, I wouldn't say nervous, but like I'm very focused on making sure that my stage presence is like top notch for my pro debut, because these pros, I have so much confidence, so much poise, and you're out there a lot. As an amateur, like you can hide a lot of stuff in 15 seconds. Yeah. And I feel like every video I've seen of all of my shows in the last couple of years, I always look so rushed. I'm like, man, it's going to be so nice to have more time, but also, making sure that I don't bore them to death. Like, oh God, I'm sleepy. Like get this girl off the stage. I want to be fun to look
balance.
At. So
it's a fine balance.
So I'm still excited. Just, it didn't go as planned, but it's gonna be all right. Stage is not going anywhere, right? That's what we always say.
Exactly. That's why, like, sometimes you can't, like, you have your heart set on a show, and like you can do everything you can to possibly be like on point for that show, but at the same time, it's like you kind of decide, like, okay, am I going to be as ready as I want to be? Should I choose a different show? Like there's always the stage, and there's always shows. So like,
and this this if this popped up like I'm a month out, I'd be devastated. Like it's happening right now. It's not great timing, but there's worse timing. Like I could have already like paid for a show, flights booked, everything. And then, you need to have your wisdom teeth out. I'd be like absolutely screwed. So I'm like, this can be fine,
Well, and I was talking to one of my clients this last check-in. So Monday, I was talking to her, and she couldn't work out for an entire week because her kiddos were sick, and she didn't have like care. She had to stay home with them. So I think she got in like 1 or 2 workouts, but like she's competing in April and she couldn't get any of her workouts, but she was like 100% on her diet. And she's like, I feel bad that like I kind of missed a whole week. And then when I spoke to her, I'm like, this is why you give yourself time, because especially as moms, and I know we've talked about it before, but as moms, like there are things with our kids that come up, and sometimes it is unavoidable. Like it is, our kiddos are sick and they cling to our leg for dear life, and we can't leave them. At the end of the day, our kids and our family are going to take priority over prep. And so unfortunately there's those moments where you're like, I can't go, or your kids are really sick and you're stuck in the hospital. Here we have Children's Mercy, so you're stuck at Mercy, and like you can't go, but that's okay. But you gave yourself enough time,
And also it doesn't mean that like you just, okay, well then I just will ditch all my good habits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I can't go to the gym, I'm going to just eat like shit and not drink my water and not, just because you can still do all the other things. And then, if you're training hard all the time, sometimes your body needs a deload week. I've done that for
Yeah.
clients where, they just are having a hard time recovering, or, they're just kind of losing that like love for training and feeling a little bit burnt out. And, they've been training consistently 5 to 6 days a week for, several months. We'll do like a deload week where they just kind of like do active rest. So,
Mm-hmm.
they might bike or go to yoga or take complete rest. And when they come back, they're recharged, they're stronger, they build more muscle, they're more recovered, they're excited again. And so, if you are forced to take that time, don't feel like, oh, I'm not going to get anywhere. Like we really underestimate the
Mm-hmm.
importance of rest and recovery and muscle building. People just think, oh, I'm just going to like keep training and never stop and grind. And it's like, well, no, you
Yeah.
have to like rest in order to build muscle. So
Yeah.
let's take a deload week.
I like having a have like during the workout, like during time with clients every week, I like to have like it's like a happy rest day, an active
Yeah.
happy rest day. And
Hmm.
it's funny because a lot of my clients, it's something new, of course, to them, and they're just like, well, what do I do? I'm like, do whatever makes you happy that's moving your body. Is it Pilates? Is it yoga? Is it hiking? Is it biking? Is it like taking your dog on a walk? Like whatever, like something that's just happy. Because we've talked about this before. I can't remember exactly who we spoke to about it, but we're talking about like whenever you get deep into prep and it's like that grind, you see this pattern that you do lose your love for it, and it becomes something
Hmm.
that you have to do instead of you want to do. And then when you're done competing or you're going into improvement season, that that really kicks in and you're just tired and you're like, I don't want to go to the gym, I don't want to do this, and you just see like the post show blues and all that stuff. So I started implementing, don't lose what makes you happy. Like I have one client who like wants to work arms, and right now she can, we have like a light little arm day, and I'm like, here's some like little stuff to do. Some girls like to hike, some girls like to do hot yoga. I'm like, don't lose your love for activity,
Hmm.
because this will eventually get really really hard. you
Yeah.
know
Or like when
so
I get out of a long prep, sometimes I'll like get a guest pass at a different gym just to like
mm,
change things up. Or like,
yeah.
I typically train by myself when I'm in prep because I need that focus, but I might like work out with a buddy or a client or something just for something different. Like, because like to your point, and when we talk, I can't remember who else we talked to, but just you can feel sometimes like that burnout feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and just needing, just something to switch things up a little bit. I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm going to go into powerlifting or like, take
Yeah.
up martial arts. Like you still definitely love the sport and still want to train as a bodybuilder. But the fact remains that like, you've trained really hard for a long time. And sometimes it's just natural to just be like, ugh, I'm so bored of this.
Yeah.
But I always find, man, a little tiny break. Like when I go on vacation and I'm away from my gym for a week, like when I come back, I'm like, yeah, like let's go. I always find
Mm-hmm.
like my spark again. So I think, if you're feeling that way, even if you're, just training for a life season, like it's okay to like, not necessarily take a break, but just kind of give yourself a week of doing other things. I promise you, you will not lose progress.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
that's really healthy. It's
Yeah.
always really good.
Healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, we have two parts to today's episode. The first part, we're going to just kind of talk about the beginning of where we started and what the year's been like and some of our like favorite moments. And then we're going to wrap up the episode with a few questions that we sent to one another about, certain parts of this journey that are very personal that we want to share. So, Mandy,
Yeah.
do you want to start with highlights or like reflections on like that first episode, which I watched the other day because I was just like, it popped up when I was playing with the YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
we're so stiff. We're like, hi everyone, thanks for watching. Like
We're
we're
so
not as,
scared.
I know, we were so scared, and like also our faces were very chubby, and I had
I
like
know,
a
chipmunk
different setup.
cheeks.
Yeah, yeah, and my setup was so busy. I was like sitting in front of my desk. There's all this stuff behind me, like the
That drove
camera's
you
like
nuts.
this, and I didn't have. I think I had the good camera, but I didn't have all this lighting or anything. And I think I was like 10 episodes and I'm like, this looks ridiculous. Like I got to clean it up a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, that first episode, man, it's a banger.
I remember, so because we did like one or two mock episodes to mess with our camera and our like
Hmm.
mics and everything, and I think it was me that had like a terrible camera, and I was like couldn't stand it, and I remember asking you like because your camera was good at the time, and I was like, what camera is it? And oh, you guys, when we had to set up for this podcast, we had to go back and forth so many times because, like, okay, we were really scared. And so when we first started, it was just the fear of like, I feel like just like posting, right? Like you get scared of like, oh, if I post this, what are people going to think? And
Uh-huh.
like, I think you and I had just so many like, what are people going to say? What are people going to think? Are we even going to, is anybody even going to care? Like, is
Is
anybody going to
anyone going to
listen?
come on it? Like, is
Yeah.
anyone going to
Oh,
say
yeah.
yes? Because we
Yeah.
were so
So,
new and like, oh, like, trying to ask pros to come on. But
yeah.
yeah.
I was really nervous about that. Like just all of the above, right? Yeah, I remember looking back whenever we pull like shorts and videos and stuff and thinking, "Oh my god, my little chipmunky cheeks." Which I got some of my chipmunky cheeks back, but
I
like
did too.
my
Yeah.
which I still have like it's a little different, but
But if you follow like episode by episode, like our faces got leaner and
oh,
leaner and leaner and leaner,
mhm. Oh
and
yeah.
then like we got like stupider and stupider. Do you remember that one where we were just like, duh, like we were out of it? Like
I
it
had a
was,
brain fog episode and you had oh gosh, I can't remember what you were talking about. But no, as like
yeah, good
so
times.
it was. I just think back to like how like determined we were because
Hmm.
before starting this, that was the biggest thing is like I listeners, Gillian and I like really when we decided to do this and we when I say that this is our baby, this is our project, but we treated it like a business. So
Hmm.
going into this, we had goals, we had a framework, we had consistency, we had meetings. We wanted to make sure that we were able to, give everybody listening just everything, all the knowledge we wanted to give and be reliable. That was our
Yeah,
key point was to be reliable. So we didn't want to have like 5 episodes and then get deterred. So I feel like you and I made
yeah,
like a not contract with
yeah.
each other, like
Oh,
a
like
verbal.
for sure. Like it's every
Hmm.
Friday, and I think the first one we ever missed was because we had a sound issue. And because we had interviewed one of our amateur athletes after she had competed for the first time,
Yeah.
and we could not use the episode. The sound was so bad,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'd rather put out nothing than put out something that people are not going to want to, that's going to hurt their ears, right?
Yeah.
So that was the very first time that we didn't do a weekly episode, and I remember just feeling like shit, like I felt terrible
I
because I was like, this was our pact, was every Friday we're going to have an episode.
and I was,
And then we ended up missing two more for life reasons, like
yeah.
for we were
I
both
know it was
competing,
and then
and then
kids. It was the kids.
yeah, yep.
School. That was
So
a
I
big
think
one.
out of because we're at like our 1 year anniversary and this is episode 49, so we really like we didn't fall
Hmm.
too far behind. So
No.
that I'm like most proud of. Like, but I knew like you'd be an equal partner, like that we would
Yeah.
neither one of us would slack in any way. But I mean, there was times where I was like, I don't know what we're going to record this week. Like, what are we going to talk about? But we always would talk for like an hour before we'd even hit record anyway. So I'm like, even if we just hit go, we're going to be able to fill the space with
Hmm.
like something that will help people because of just our experience and then our friendship too, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And I feel so like looking back, just happy for like that. And then also getting more you the confidence or courage to like reach out to people and be like, would you like to be on our podcast? Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, we're a brand new podcast, we don't have like any followers on Instagram at the time, like we don't like we're not this huge thing that's out there, right? And we're asking people that have huge followings or have been in the business or doctors, all whatever, just really high experts. And we're like, hey, can we take an hour of your time? And I just looking back at all the guests we've had, it's insane.
I know. We've been
Insane.
so lucky. We really have. And I value every single one of those conversations. That was, just every time somebody said yes, it was such an honor to just that they would spend an hour with us and share their story. And, everyone's story is so different, impacted so many different women in different ways. And I just, yeah, it's been awesome, and yeah, and there's just a lot of insight that I gained from every one of those
Oh yeah.
interactions and things like that have just like left a permanent imprint on my brain of just like, wow, like that was, a really cool or a phrase or something that I will like say over and over again that I've learned from them. So it's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
done a lot for
just
me.
just everybody, rather it's educational, like having hormonal specialists on and just like learning different things, or a pelvic floor specialist, like the education that we learn and then that we're able to like put out for listeners, like I'm just so proud of. But I think what was more, I think the most jaw-dropping thing for me, and I know after every time we did this, we would get off our podcast, our recording, and you and I would just take a minute and be like, oh my gosh, we just did this. Like, oh my gosh, we just talked to this person. And the most interesting thing is, almost, I think every single woman that came on our podcast, not only were we shocked that they came on our podcast, but they were so grateful. Like,
Mhm.
they were so like, thank you for creating this space for moms. And I'm just like, you want to like share this? Like, I was scared to ask them, but in reality they were so happy to be asked, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was just like, thank you for your time. And they're like, no, thank you for this space. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because I think about all the people we've had on and I'm like, this helps so many people. And that was the whole
Hmm.
purpose for this, was like, there's moms out there, rather they're competing, rather they're in off season, rather they're never going to step on stage, and they're just wanting to feel good in a bikini, or whatever cute tankini, because god forbid there's so many cute swimsuits now,
Hmm.
that just feel good and confident. Like, there are all these women that are moms that are like, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and like,
Hmm.
thank you for this podcast, so like I'm not alone, like I'm here like to share. And it just like, it warmed my heart after like every episode that we
Yeah.
had like people on.
Yeah, 100%. It was like just motivating to like talk to these women and really just find ways that you identify with them and like that you can relate, because I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we can put our idols on a pedestal and almost go like, oh, like I just one day would love to be like them, but I could probably never be like them because
Mm-hmm.
they're, this, that, and the other. And then when you really talk to these women and they share like the real behind the scenes of like what goes on, it's like, wow, like we're not that different. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of similarities. And I think
Yeah.
that was helpful for me on my own personal journey this year of kind of needing to see that like, hey, like there's not that many differences like between somebody who's at the level I want to be and the level that I'm at right now. So that I can't keep putting myself in this like, almost like I think it helped me with imposter syndrome a lot, because
Yeah.
instead of sort of being intimidated by these women that I looked up to for so long, I realized that we're a lot alike. And I'm like, well, that's, it's encouraging to know that like your goal is attainable, and what really is holding you back sometimes is your own beliefs about yourself and your own
Mm-hmm.
limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't think I will ever forget the moment. Like, I was sitting on my couch and it was in February. It was before the Arnold, and like being like, I'm gonna shoot my shot and ask Angelica Texera to come on our podcast. She will probably never message me back because she probably gets 1,000 DMs a day, but I'm gonna shoot a shot. And I think it was the same day, and I was sitting on my couch, and Aaron and Carson were sitting with me, and I was just like staring at the mess. She messaged back and she said she wanted to come on our podcast but wanted to do it after the Arnolds, which made
Hmm.
sense obviously. But I was like, oh my god, the Michael Jordan of our sport just messaged me back.
I know.
I was
Oh my,
like,
I think I had a heart attack and then I cried. I was like, "Oh my gosh.
I'm
Like
like,
I cannot believe this."
and it just goes to show, like you said, like putting them on a pedestal, like we do that, and it's not that they want to be put on that pedestal. They
Hmm.
don't. I don't think anybody that we spoke to ever really wanted that. It's just
Yeah.
that's what you do because that's what you see, and that's all you see on social media. And as
Hmm.
many times as they put out YouTube videos or comment or Instagrams, it's social media, you still do that, right? But actually getting a chance to hear their stories and hear, like you said, oh, like I do those same things. The only difference is like these slight things, like maybe pushing yourself a little harder at the gym, maybe being more dedicated to your diet, maybe being more dedicated to improvement season, maybe structuring your show season differently. Whatever it is, like you're not that far off from being these people who like you see every day. And I will say that is one thing. I mean, I've always kind of tried at things, but like this year I like was like, I'm gonna try at everything, like everything. I'm gonna shoot the shot for everything, and then we'll see what works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely been a cool process, you know. And I remember when I first started, someone was like, "Oh man, that's a really saturated market." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I mean, good then. Maybe when we're trying to figure this out, no one will listen, and we can make all our
Right.
mistakes with no audience, you know." But it's been so cool to like have people stop me and say that they love the podcast, or like somebody recognized my voice backstage at a show one time, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's cool." Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there's just been so many moments like from every single person that came on this year that I can take away and just, you know, that added value. So so grateful. I really am.
Yeah. And I will say another, you kind of just said it, but anytime getting messages or meeting people in person that say, like, I love your podcast, I listen to your podcast, like, oh, you did this or did that. And I'm just like, I'm always shocked because I'm like, I'm so grateful. And I'm just
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It means so much because the more help, like, this may sound cheesy, but like, I feel like that's like a part of like my journey on this earth, right? I've like fully embraced like my journey is to help people. Like it
Hmm.
is in any which way possible. But obviously my passion is health and fitness. So like that is how I want to help people. And so when we can give this information and like guidance and help to all of these women that are out there, and I hear people come up and tell me that, I'm just like, thank you for being you. Like, thank you so much. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's the best ever. Like anytime any listener comes up to me, I just want to like squeeze them and be like, thank you. Like
Yeah.
it just means so much. Cause to your point, like when we started this, you and I agreed that we would, you know, never miss a Friday. We agreed that we would, you know, do all of these things. We had like a checklist of stuff. And one of the main things was the fact that we would never let like the amount of viewers and listeners affect our like consistency. And I remember
Yeah.
reading a book, it was an entrepreneurial book, and it talked about social media, and it talked about like your first year in business, if it had to do with social media, do not look at like the viewers because it can be disheartening. And so like I took from that book, but I knew that like it's like any business, like your first year at doing something or like your first time at doing something, like you're gonna have problems. You like you said, you're gonna get scared. We're gonna mess up. Like, but like I just want to thank everybody that kind of weathered it with us. Like we did
Yeah.
have sound issues, we have
Oh
some camera
yeah.
issues, you know, but like
Lots of Wi-Fi issues. Oh my
I
gosh.
I will say the program that we use is pretty helpful. So when we
Hmm.
have issues and we try to learn like how to fix it or to not like happen again, it's really helpful. Like they have a really good like help system to be
Yeah.
like,
Shout out to
what?
Riverside.
Yeah,
Not
thank you.
sponsored yet.
Yeah, yet. So,
No, I mean, yeah, it's true. Like I think you can't focus on like, you know, oh, well, it only got this many views or whatever. And I think too, like I feel like it's a really hard metric to track. Like for a
hmm
while there was like a ranking, and then I think they closed that ranking down. Like it was called Chartable or something. I don't even think they do it anymore. But
yeah.
I think it's different anyways because the way podcasts are promoted and like how the algorithm works is it's really complicated. And I don't want it to be about that. Like I want it to be very organic, and I want like the right people, it to be in front of the right people like that really need this information. And like to your point, like helping people is really important to me. And I always think back to when I needed that inspiration and I didn't really have it, or I searched high and low for someone that I could relate to back when all we had was like MySpace. And so, you know, now I just, if I can get this information in front of someone who has thought about competing for a long time, or maybe they don't want to compete, but they just want to, you
hmm
know, look hot in a bikini or in a one piece swimsuit. Like one day in their life, they've never had that or that chance after
Yeah.
babies. They just never found that stride in their fitness and in their health. Like if something here helps them, like that's, I want everyone to feel amazing, you know, and feel
Yeah.
confident and live their best life. So, you know, it's not really about like inspiring every woman to get on stage, because that might
hmm
not be someone's goal. And I think it shouldn't be. Like I think that you should only want to compete if that's in your heart, because I don't think you will be able to like really get as much out of it if
hmm
it's not what you want to do. Because you know, we get that all the time where people are like, oh, somebody told me I should compete, and I'm like, I don't really think you want to compete, like, so you really shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like you won't get out of it what you can if it's not what you really want to do. But if it inspires you to, you know, push yourself a little bit harder, or like, or even, you know, just make that goal of like, you know, I'm gonna finally get this silly 10 pounds off that I've been fighting with for the last 6 years. Like come on, I can do it. Nicole Johnson has, she had twins, and Dove Putterman
Yeah.
has triplets.
Triplets.
Like April Conley, suffered a great loss. Like all these women, all these stories, right? Like, why not you? Like, why
Yeah.
not you? And I think that's what's been the coolest thing is all the stories of like, it wasn't easy for anybody. And so it's not going to be easy for you either, but it doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now I think it's time that we go to the second part of this episode, right? Which we do have a few questions. So, like Gillian said at the beginning, Gillian came up with 3 questions, and she sent me the questions, and then so we both answered these questions, and we are both going to share our questions on this podcast.
Okay.
So, Gillian, why don't you go first? So,
no, I wanted you to go first.
I'll go first.
I feel like I'm really in my feels with the stupid tooth. It's like untapped like some tear center in my body. Like I've been crying all week about just like the dumbest things.
The worst pain.
I know, but I'm like super emotional. So I was like, as I was getting ready for the camera today, I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. And then I'm like, ah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm a little in my feelings just because, sitting here for, before we started the podcast, sitting here for like about 45 minutes, like just kind of like thinking of my answers to the questions, like I got a little emotional. So like it kind of put me in like this little like heartfelt moment. So okay. I'll go first. Which question do you want to go first?
Okay. So the first question is, what did you learn about yourself this year?
Oh, that's a deep one too. Which I should have known that because you sent that first. Yeah. So this one is, okay, it's going to be kind of long, but I'm going to try to shorten it because I really contemplated this because I feel like every single year I learn something new about myself. And I feel like the most common answer to this is really like, I learned how strong I am. I learned how much I can handle, how much pressure I can handle. So to be fair, I learned that about myself in 23. Like I really did. And 2023 was a monster of a year for me. And I say that because I was a full-time coach. I was a full-time expediter. I was still taking classes, just health classes. I think that was part-time. And then I traveled a lot with my son's soccer, including going to Spain for 2 weeks in the summer. Like I was grinding. Now I say that, but at the same time, I purposely wasn't in prep because Aaron and I at the beginning of that year had talked about like, hey, we still both are on the same page about wanting kids. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to get really lean and lose. I will share the fact that I always lose my cycle in prep, no matter what I do. Like I just do. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to go into prep. Like, let's try this. We weren't mentally ready to face doctors again or yet. It's been like years. And we just wanted to try again, like more consciously, naturally. Mm-hmm. So it didn't happen, but we both just really grinded on our business aspects, like my fitness, coaching, he does mortgages. Like we really just like nailed it. And so looking back on that year, I was like, man, I can do a lot of shit when I put my mind to it. I'm strong and all these things. Mm-hmm. So in 24, I was like, okay, let's prep. Like, let's, add to this, right? So again, expediting full-time, prep full-time, growing the podcast business. I was just like totally focused on all these things. During that time, it really kind of became apparent to me, like, I want to say like halfway through the year, of how important time is. And I kind of like giggle at myself because I feel like this is an old person thing, an older person, because we all know time is time. Like we don't get it back. Sure. We all know that. Mm-hmm. But when you get to like a certain point in your life, you don't go to baby showers anymore. You go to funerals. Like you don't go to, I know, sorry. I know, but it's true. Like you aren't going to birthday parties as much as you're not getting announcement cards.
So true.
As it is. You're getting news that someone has dementia or someone has cancer. Like time. Oh, see, now I'm not going to cry. Okay. But it just became extra. I was gone like every weekend. Aaron was doing a lot of work and a lot of parenting. Like I was so focused and he was focused too. And at some point we realized like, I don't think we're doing the right thing anymore. And it's weird to look back and say, but like when I was done competing in June and I was in so much pain, obviously my first point was to get feeling better. It just, him and I were like, we really need to do something. And it hit him just as hard as it hit me. And we both really shifted. And we both were like, we need to like really focus on us and what's important to us. Because business and all this other stuff will always be there. So I shouldn't say always, but like the amount of time was crazy. So the most important thing I learned this year is prioritizing my time.
Yeah.
And not just on things that are like, I should say like where you see yourself in a year or two, but really where do you see yourself in 10 years? Like one of our coaches on our team says it all like a lot, but who do you see sitting at your Thanksgiving table? And it really hits home for me because Aaron and I really know that we want more kids. We really know whether it's IVF or adoption, like this is what we have to do. And we really need to face this together. And as hard as it is, like we have to face it. Like we have to stop like ignoring it because like we're just getting too old. So my focus this year or into next year, and of course, is like time and focusing on family, growing my family. I will not be expediting next year, which I'm always here to help the NPC Midwest. It was a great experience. I love Jack and Ann very much, but he was very respectful of knowing that I need to focus on growing my family. And if I do IVF, I have to travel out of state to a doctor and it's unpredictable. But I love coaching. I love working with our clients. And when our clients have problems or things come up, I love researching and learning. And I want to keep focusing on that. Put my time there. And then, of course, put my time with our podcast, with, you know, team coaching. And then something also that has been very amazing that's happened is, you know, going to a place, seeing where we want to live our life and that it's like becoming a reality, which is really like emotional for me. But we have the opportunity and we are under contract to move in 4 months, still in Kansas City, but outside into a 55-acre farm and just live a life that like we've always dreamed of. And it's a lot of work, but that's the point, is it's still so much work and it's still so much time. But this is where time is important for my clients, for my family, for you and the podcast, you know, and that's where it's important right now. And I absolutely am grateful for the people around me that realize like, that's awesome, you know, because I will tell you, I was very scared to share a lot of my personal stuff because it's not competing. And I was very scared that like, it wouldn't be good. And I would get more negative feedback or comments, especially being 35. But in reality, so many people are so supportive and so happy for me. And
Totally.
I learned this year that like as much as I love prepping, and I never will say I'm hanging up my heels because I guarantee you I will be back competing. But right now it is just nowhere near the top of my list. So therefore there's no way like I can do that right now, but I can help so many others do it. And that's what makes me happy. And I totally made you cry and I held my shit together.
No tears actually came out of my eyes yet. But and I like don't have a Kleenex. I have like a paper towel next to me. So I really have to be careful how I navigate my little segment. But no, I think to sort of like add to what you said about you and your journey, like we talked about this you know, before we started today, like, you know, I think that we always say, well, we said it in this podcast already too, the stage is not going anywhere. And, you know, what we do here is provide information for women that are on a fitness journey. It doesn't mean that ends in a competition bikini. It could be a beach bikini. It could be whatever, right? And also you're not any less fitness because you're not competing. You're still like getting PRs. You're still doing all the workouts that we would be doing if we were prepping for shows. Like the only difference is there's just not a show in sight. And could you add that? You know, at one point you did want to do that and I was going to coach you. And I kept thinking, this is a bad idea, only because I knew you could pull it off. But I was like, at the cost of what? At the cost of time with your teenager and time with your husband, and you'll be really stressed. And, you know, can you be successful and crush everything? Yes. But, you know, that can also be really tough to navigate and really like I think it just shows a lot of maturity that you're willing to go, okay, this is like something that I'm still in love with. I'm just gonna put it over here for right now while I work on all
Hmm.
this stuff, and it's waiting for me when I'm finished and when I
Yeah.
can focus fully on that. So
Well, and
I think
I
that's
love the
beautiful.
I love the education behind it too. Like I had a client the last few weeks that I've had some gut issues, and like I have like more mental space because I know we've talked about that before. When you're in prep, it's like, yeah, we go to the gym and we eat our food, but the mental space it takes is
Oh yeah.
astronomical.
Uh-huh.
Like you are never not thinking about it. As much as you try not to think about it, oh, you're thinking about it.
Oh,
So like the
always.
fact I like have the mental clarity and
Oh
space to be like,
yeah.
I want to help my clients. I want to help them pose. I want to help them learn. I want to help them navigate things, and I can have the time to like dig deep and like be like, how do we fix this? How do we adjust this? What did I do before? What did you do that, all of those things. And just still being a part of the experience and everything, like going to the show now as a coach instead of as an expediter, like just just having the ability to do it differently, but having also the time to where family is just absolutely like comes first
Yeah.
this year and next year.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love it.
Yeah. So what did you learn about yourself this year?
Well, likewise, I wanted to say, oh, I learned how strong I am and I learned how resilient I am. And I think you like every year you have challenges. Like
Yes.
there was a lot of challenges this year, and I'm like, like it's just a lot of things that showed me like, oh man, I'm badass, like there was a lot. But I think like the biggest thing that I learned this year is that I am worthy.
Ooh.
And I think
Hmm.
that I don't always think that I felt that way. Like I always felt like somebody was more deserving than me.
Hmm.
That I don't know, and I think it probably goes back to just some of the shame around my divorce. Still, even though everyone's a lot happier now, you know, um, I can't obviously like look into the future of what it would have been like if we had stayed together. But
Yeah.
the fact remains we're not, and we're both him and my ex husband. We're happy. Kids are happy. I'm madly in love with my husband, and I'm so grateful for the path that my life took. But I carried a lot of shame when that happened. Just I failed, like my marriage failed, and I
Hmm.
think I also endured some like online bullying when that happened,
Yeah.
because it was all around the time of me doing a lot of fitness modeling, and there was a lot of rumors circling, and really honestly, it was so small scale. Now when I look back, I'm like, why the hell did I care? Like I'm not a Kardashian. Like nobody was even
No.
reading this stuff, and it was just like one or two people, and it was so silly, and those people have like not amounted to anything. So I don't even know why I gave them
Yeah.
any energy. But like for somebody who really wants to be is like a people pleaser, and really I care about what people think, it was
Hmm.
really tough for me. And so it's made parts of my journey just really difficult, putting myself out there feeling like, what do I have? Do I have enough to actually be a pro? And then coming close so many times and not getting there, kind of going like, is anyone ever going to pick me, and is it ever going to be my day,
Yeah.
and so I think that shifted a lot through the spring, going into the prep, being aligned with the right people around me. Like I have a great circle of friends, people that I talk to every day, like yourself, that build me up, and a great gym community, and like my family, everything. And I'm just like, I realize like, yeah, like I'm worthy of this accomplishment. I always knew I was putting in the work, but you have to really believe that it's your time. And so that was something that, and I really think it's also helped some of my clients too, that when I see them self-sabotaging, cutting corners, losing
Hmm.
belief in themselves in the process, I think, man, why don't you believe in yourself as much as I believe in you? And then I would turn it around and go like, Gillian, like, you don't believe in yourself, So I think working through a lot of that stuff, which just kind of like, I don't think it's any special book or any therapy or anything that really got me there. I just think it was just time, and really healing old wounds, and like just a lot of things that, just wisdom that I gained this year, and a lot of it seriously through this podcast. Like, so grateful to everybody. I've always said that, I tell you this all the time. Like, I don't know that I would have achieved my goal without this community, without this podcast, without this like weekly, just like boost of motivation and excitement that just like fueled my passion through all of it, you know. And it's like, it's incredible. I remember when we first started, I was like, well, this is like a good time to, you know, do a podcast because I'll be competing next year. So I can like, you know, have like a week by week of the journey, because I've never like been like a YouTube person. Like, I could not have a YouTube channel.
YouTube is hard.
It's so hard.
I've tried.
Oh, I'm not a camera in your face kind of girl anyway, so it'd be really hard to keep on top of. And but this was such a cool way. Like every now and then I'll kind of go back and listen to a random episode where it's like, oh, I'm 6 weeks out, or like, oh, I just did Universe and it didn't like go the way I wanted to, you know. And it's just, I don't know, it's just the coolest thing. And so I don't know. And I watched the episode where you announced me as an IFBB pro today, and I lost it.
I watched it too because you sent it to me.
I lost it. Every time I watch it, I bawl my eyes out, you know. So it's just, it's been an incredible journey. I've learned a lot about myself, but I think that is like the one biggest thing. So long answer.
It like, it's so incredible to me because the whole time we've done this podcast in my head, like I just knew you were going to do it. Like, to me, it was like, you're beyond worthy enough. Like, it's your time. And that's like my point of view, right? So every time we talked, which was like every day, every time we did this podcast, every time we talked to somebody, like every time somebody shared something, and a lot of times there was a few girls that would say, oh, like, you'll get it too this year, Gillian, or they'll say something along those lines. And I'm just like, yeah, this is like, you're absolutely, it wasn't even a question like you were going to do it. And I always believed in you. Like, I knew how hard you were working. I knew what you were doing. We, you know, did this side by side. And like, I knew you were going to do it. And I knew that you had put in the blood, sweat, and tears and the experience to conquer this goal. And like, you deserved it more than anybody. I think you told me at your show when you got your pro card at, oh my gosh, I'm blanking out, not Universe,
Masters Nationals.
I was like, it's not Junior Nats, Masters National. There was like a coach or something, and you said, no, like there was a girl that was kind of grumpy or something, and the coach to her said, like, do you not know who that is? Like, that's Gillian Hughes. Like, it's her turn. And it's like, exactly. Like, it's your time. And so it's beautiful. You deserved it more than anything. And I absolutely, like, to your point of like this podcast being there every week, like, I know there's sometimes like in our preps that we were like just going through like the thick of it. And it's like, no, we have to show up for our listeners, whether it's 2 or 10 or 1, like we owe it. We have to do it. And like, it brought like a totally different experience and perspective and like keeping track of everything. So
yeah. And I think that's like a segue into like the next question, which is like, what is the most surprising thing about this experience?
What is the most surprising? I had 2, and it was, I kind of already said both of them if I think about how at the beginning we were talking, and it was all the women that we've helped, like that have reached out to us. Like, I'm very surprised, and it almost contradicts itself, but like, I'm surprised at so many women reaching out that we've helped, and like, they don't feel alone, whether they're competing, whether they're not competing, whether they're gym goers, whether they're most of them are moms, and they're just like, just trying to figure stuff out. And the people we've met in person and the people that have messaged us are just like, thank you so much. They like tell me a story, or they just like say how much it helped them. Like, I can't believe this is actually helping that many people. So like, that is like so amazing and surprising to me. And I never want it to end. And then again, having all these pro level elite athletes, like I not just idolized for so many years Angelica, but like India, like for so long. And for her to be like, absolutely, like I can't wait to come on. I'm like, what? Like, I'm pretty sure when I was like 2016, I stalked you on Instagram. But now I can like talk to you, and they're just so happy to share because they want to help other people too.
Yeah.
So that's what surprised me. What this year has surprised you?
Well, those things also, you know, and also that I love it as much as I do, because when you first suggested the idea, I was like, oh my God, I'm so busy. Like, I don't know how I'll find the time. But like, when you love something, like, I have so much fun creating those thumbnails. Like, I really love like messing around in Canva, and you know, it's become really like a system every week of how we put all that together, and it's flowed. It's been I mean, it's just been a labor of love, really. So that, and then I think like the one of the most surprising things is like how freeing it is to be able to like be so vulnerable, and it's so easy to do. Like, when I write an Instagram caption, girl, it takes me days, like grammar and like the perfect thing, and then it's too long and I have to shorten it. It's like putting a post together is painful and it takes forever, but like I just put on my headphones and just talk to my best friend every week, and like
Yeah.
I get to share everything and I get to help so many people, and I think that it's impossible to be inauthentic because you can't rehearse this stuff. It would take so long to script an entire episode and to do it every week. Like we just talk, and like, I think for someone like me too, who has always like been concerned about like saying the right thing and like make sure I don't offend people. Like I hope everyone likes me. Like that is, for me quite brave, and it's been really freeing and really amazing. So I think that's, been surprising for me.
Yeah, that is really surprising. And honestly, I would say that's something too, like you learned about yourself too. Like
Yeah.
bravery, I guess. Like
Yeah.
through expediting, I'm really good at talking to people in person. Like
Yeah.
I could talk to a massive group of people with no problem. But like, yeah, sharing all of our feelings and all of like our vulnerabilities on camera, like I guess I really never thought about it, but it is, yeah, astronomically easier than making a post and making. I feel like that goes back to like when you're texting long stories, like you and I are fine. Like we can text and we know our tone. But like when you're texting a lot and like you're reading, it's like what's the tone, and then you get misconstrued. I feel like that's kind of like the same thing with making
Yeah.
posts. Whereas like you're on camera, it's just like, no, this is who we are. Like this is
Yeah,
it.
like this is the impression you get is like it's the real me, right? Versus
Hmm.
like the tone in a post is kind of like, oh, I always thought you were like this because I read this thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like I, don't share as much as I used to for sure. And, so then people don't really know the real me. And so this has been like a great way to like, talk to people and share the whole experience, the highs and the lows. And, especially when I hear from somebody, who like, if you're still listening, it's 56 minutes in. Some of our episodes are like over an hour long. Like you really want to be here. And I
Yeah.
want to talk to people who want to hear me talk. I don't want to just talk to anyone. Right. Like, so I think that's really cool that people take away stuff from our experience, and or just that they don't feel so alone, because they've got someone who's like understands what they're going through and or has already been through it and can share some encouragement to be like, I know it's rough right now, but you're going to get through it too, so
Yeah. That's true.
so yeah, it's a really cool thing. Anybody's thinking about doing a podcast, just go for it. It's
Yeah.
like it is really just it's been so much fun.
It has been.
Okay, and then last question
Mm-hmm.
is what are you most proud of this year?
So I have a personal one, like for me myself, and that would be just having such a great prep and getting a lousy placing. And that was odd because every show I've ever competed in, I've always got like a high enough placing and I was happy and I was good and whatever. And I, had a great prep, and the placing I got was not where I wanted it to be. And it kicked me. And like, I was upset. I dwelled on it for a minute. I talked to you, getting myself out of that dark place for like, because of that. And then being like, no, I still got to show up. I still got to be there. I still did all this hard work. I still had so much fun. Like, and being like, a placing can't control me like this. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so coming back and, I took the cute photos, and I talked about this on another podcast, but the funnest thing was at the night show after everything was done, having Laura Lee Chapada like backstage with us and saying like, you looked so happy on stage, and like taking pictures with her. And it just was like, this was a really great time, and I don't give a shit what I placed. That, and then, of course, you winning your pro card and being your prep bestie was beyond just amazing and fun. And I look back at like waking up and watching the Arnold UK on live stream with you and like talking and just everything that you and I have gone through for like, I mean, both our preps, but your preps, and like watching you turn pro this year and just being a part of that journey, and like literally sitting at the dinner table with my husband at a fancy ass restaurant being like, I gotta watch Gillian on my phone. I gotta watch this. And literally having a waiter, like we're at like this 5-star restaurant, and I'm like, I gotta watch this. I gotta watch this. And like watching it just, just like being a part of your journey was like the greatest this year. Woo! I can't wait to do it next year for your pro debut.
I know.
So
Yeah.
what are
Just
your
excited.
proudest of this year?
I mean, a lot of the same things. Like, my first showing of the season, like, I could have called it off there and been like, well, I didn't do as
Mm-hmm.
well as I thought, and I'm proud of myself for like, finding, like, digging deep and finding, like, the belief that I could continue to improve, and then going to universe and getting third place. Like, third place is two spots away from pro. It's not one spot
Mm-hmm.
away. And being able to, like, really push myself and not turn into a basket case either, because, that grind was really tough, but
Yeah.
it was so exciting and totally worth it. And I'm glad that I didn't bail on myself or, like, let self-doubt creep in. I think by that point I was like, there's no turning back now. Like, you gotta just go after it,
Yeah.
So I think that, I'm proud of myself for, like, having that, like, mental fortitude there to believe that I was a champion, and to see it all happen. Like, it's still a movie in my head. Like,
Yeah.
that moment. Well, and it's like all wrapped
Yeah.
up into, like,
Like,
Brady was there, and he's been such a part of, my entire journey. Like, I competed pregnant with him,
mm-hmm.
so, like, he's literally been on stage since, like, or been a part of my experience forever. So it was just coincidence that he was there watching his dad compete a few days prior. He got to stay, he was there, and he's the one taking the video when they announce my pro card, and he's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, mom, oh my gosh, mom, you got it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's been an incredible year. It really has. So,
Yeah.
did that answer the question? I forget what the question was.
Yeah, that
Like
was your
2/3.
proudest moment. Well, and
Yeah.
like it's crazy thinking about Brady and your kiddo being like, my mom did it. And he'll always remember that, because he's old enough to remember that stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's true too. Like, they will, always remember it. And, like, even though Brooklyn kind of gives me shit when I'm just like, I'm a pro, you can't talk to me like that. I told you
Yeah.
to empty the dishwasher. She's, still, the things that they've observed, and just, me going after that, is helped them to really
Yeah.
dig deep. And she said one time she had a little, she had this, like, ankle injury, and it's really common in kids. And, there's not really anything they can do except rest. And I
Mhm.
was like, are you going to be okay? And she's like, Mom, I can do anything for 2.5 minutes. And I remember being like, I can do anything for 12 weeks. I can do anything for 16 weeks. I'm
Yeah.
just like, man, she really stole that line from me. So yeah, I don't know. And I think also, just, I'm proud of us that this is
Mhm.
something that we continued through a really busy year with many ups and downs, and, like, crazy life, and, like, all these
Yeah.
kids, and, our husbands and everything, and travel. Like, you traveled just as much as I did this year, and we still stayed really consistent. So,
We even vacationed at the same time on accident.
yes,
We had
yeah,
two family vacations that it just happened to fall on the same time. Like you were, I think I left first, and then you left right as I was coming back, and trying
yeah,
to stagger everything and make sure
yep,
like everything was good. Like it was just nuts this year.
yeah. And I don't anticipate next year being any less nuts with
No.
everything that's going on. But, we're committed to our community, and we're excited for some of the things that,
Oh yeah.
are coming next year. Because, I mean, after this episode, we're going into season 2 of Bikinis After
I
Babies,
know.
which is really crazy to think about.
It is.
But yeah, as always too, like, we love, suggestions. We love
Mhm.
feedback. We love it just for us. I don't know how much it helps our views or whatever. I don't really give a shit about any of that. I just want to make sure that we're giving you exactly what it is that you want to
Mhm.
listen to week after week. So definitely leave us, any comments, suggestions, anything of that. And we appreciate it all so much. We really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like as you leave comments, if you have any personal questions, always message us, DM us. It doesn't matter on
Yeah.
what social media platform. We are always here for any questions and coaching as well. I know a lot of people are going into their improvement season and getting ready for next year. Both Gillian and I take on clients, like we do lifestyle and we do prep, we do building muscle, losing fat, whatever your goals are. Like I know we both have worked with all different types of athletes and being able to be pretty successful with almost every type of client that we work with. And we're just really here to help all types of women and moms. And even if you're not a mom yet and you're going to become a mom in the future, like we're here for you, so we can do everything we can to like help your goals and everything. So it's emotional.
No, it is. It really
So,
is. I had a feeling it would be, but I actually held it together better than I thought. So,
yeah.
pretty happy.
All right. Well, thank you guys
Yeah.
for listening to this week's episode, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.